Hi, I'm Glenn Whipp with the Los Angeles Times. Joining us today, she plays Kim Wexler, the woman you cheer for, the woman you fear for, on AMC's Better Call Saul. Rhea Seehorn, welcome.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming down. Let's get straight into, not Hazel.
Not Hazel?
We were just
discussing Nick at Night. Does anybody remember that Nick at Night used to be all reruns of like awesome sitcoms? I loved it.
And Hazel.
And Hazel.
Maybe I need
Hazel
to go
was
back.
very good. You're
Watch
very
Hazel
down
again.
on Shirley Booth. It was very good.
Let's talk about Better Call Saul, though.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's get into the last two episodes, because who better than you to just kind of suss out the details on what you think is going on with Kim?
In 9 and 10, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
9 and 10. So there's the big speech in 9, where Chuck, Michael McKeon's just going off, and he's certain that Jimmy has switched the documents, the
Right.
address on the documents. And Kim,
And we know he has.
And-
And we know he's right.
Right.
What he's saying.
What's going on with Kim, do you think, in that?
You know, there's a lot
Yeah.
going on, and that is a testament to the whole writing staff that we have, of how deep they write these characters and how layered, and then our directors and our editors allowing the space to breathe in the scene so that you can play all those things. And we played it a lot of different ways, because yeah, there had to be decisions about what does Kim know and when does she know it, and what does she decide and when does she decide it. And ultimately, the take they used was the takes, multiple takes that they used to piece it together is very much the way I think is the most authentic to that character. So I was very pleased with how it came out, in that Kim is never dumb, and that's another great service they do to all the characters. And I think having that woman, this character Kim, be intelligent and savvy, so that she loves our hero / anti-hero with knowledge instead of with her head in the sand. I think
Right.
it makes him even smarter, and it makes her smarter, and it's even more fun to play that she's aware and savvy, and so you see her it dawn on her, and given what I just said, I thought it was important that she's not dumb. She's catching on, and she's got to catch on with the audience. Although they know, because they can hear, they actually saw him do it, so they hear the details. But I thought, and I talked to Peter Gould, who wrote and directed this one, about it, that Kim's known Jimmy for 10 plus years. And they're all, I think at some point, even the ring of the type of con starts to, like the type of details that Chuck starts describing. And I thought about things like where actually in the sentence, what pings you when you have that kind of history with someone. And one of them was, the copy shop. And I assume she knows exactly which copy shop this is. And I've been there, and I know Jimmy knows where this copy shop is. We've probably done legal documents there, or been there to do something. And it's like the details just start adding up, and so do the intentions, because I know he would do this for me. And then, Michael McKean's doing this masterpiece tour de force monologue that everyone's hating him for saying, when it's really just the truth. And
It's the way you sing it, though, that's kind of
it is, and it's that wonderful dichotomy that keeps being brought up in the show over and over again, which is nothing is just black and white, and Chuck's character so desperately wants to think, and so did Kim at a certain point, that good and bad was the same as legal and illegal, was the same as moral and immoral, was the same as happy and unhappy, and just none of those things are working out. It's the gray area where it's messy, and that's what you see Kim grappling with in that scene, I think, and that's what I took in, is like realizing this is true, and then realizing what to do about it. And one of the key moments for me, when she does, first of all, she chooses to speak because Jimmy tries to speak for her, which Kim doesn't really like. She's like, I can save myself, thank you. And
one reason we love her.
right,
Yeah.
well, thank you. It's one of the reasons I love her. And she asks Chuck, do you realize if what you're saying is true, your brother would go to jail, and this would be a very serious crime? And he lets me know he's fine with that. And I think that's one notch that gets turned with her. And then he tells her she has no choice. He has to do what she says, which I also don't think Kim really enjoys being told. And at this point, we've also seen her for a whole season realize that she is a bit of a pawn at HHM. And even when she asked in 205 when she asked Michael McKean, when I asked Chuck, do I have a place in this business? Do I have a future in this business? And he just tells me a monologue throwing his brother under the bus and just does not address her ambitions or her work until the end. He like throws her a little bone. And so all of these things were adding up for me. There's a lot. The whole season is going on in that scene for Kim.
And plus there's the whole Mesa Verde with Chuck, what he did.
Yes, and what he did is legal.
Yeah.
And even
but still,
shrewd business. But is it right?
Yeah.
And that's again this thing coming up with her, and what she and when people said, well, she came to Jimmy's defense because, you know, her gut tells her to do so. And I said she also chose her own ambitions. Mm-hmm. I think Kim believes she does deserve Mesa Verde, but life is not about a meritocracy, and or about always pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. And if you work hard enough, you'll be fine. Like none of those things are working out right. And that's tough. That's really hard for her because something, wherever she came from or wherever she is now, I kept seeing Kim desperately need those things to be true, and they're not. And then you see her let it out in the car afterwards, and
which is great.
That's everything. It's about what he did. It's about loving him for the intentions, for why he did it, but the execution is horrible, and now I'm in a huge mess. And about the fact that she just had to let go of the fact that she also is complicit. She chose this too.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
She is now, and the show has dropped a lot of clues that people who get complicit with Jimmy, things don't really work out too well for them.
Yeah, there's that.
And I mean, the other thing is that there's really no happy endings for any character in the Breaking Bad universe, which kind of like
it's hard. There certainly aren't
well.
any paths that don't seem wildly conflicted, at least. What their happiness is to themselves. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't know. And Peter and Vince have spoken to this on panels too, where they're like, there's no foregone conclusions for any of these characters, as much as some people might think there are. But at the same time, yes, conflict is always going to be more interesting, both in characters and in relationships and in plot lines. And then seeing how people deal with those things and how they work through them. Happy is subjective. I'm not sure about that one.
So Kim knows that Jimmy obviously doctored the documents, and now
I think so, yes.
The finale, Chuck now knows that Jimmy has doctored the documents because he confessed and he has it on tape. What do you think? But the tape, I mean, to tape somebody like that is illegal. He can't like really take it to a court, can he? He taped it.
I wondered about that too.
Consent.
Yeah, I wondered about that too, and I don't have any idea what they plan on doing with that.
But let's theorize.
Let's theorize.
But no.
Do you have lawyers calling in?
Yeah.
Are we taking calls on this one?
But what? But since he can't take it to a court, he could take it to Kim.
Yes.
And he could say, "You have," and because obviously Chuck's got this vendetta against his brother.
Yes, it would seem that way, and it would also seem that I think it bothers him a great deal that Kim will not see it his way. I think it bothered him a great deal.
Yeah, so he could force her hand with the whole Mesa Verde account, perhaps.
He could, but like you said, do you take that to court? And you see Kim ask him as well. At some point, her biggest fight with or weapon against Chuck in that scene where she confronts him is, what is your proof? What's your actual proof? So you're right. I don't know if that's admissible in court. I have a lot of homework to do before season 3, obviously. I have to go. They have, we have a lot of law consultants that help them both in the writer's room here and when we're on set when we get there. So I'm going to leave that part to them. But it is a big question.
Right.
Is it,
it's obviously
what
not
hand will he force? Is it a
Right.
legal hand, or is it more a question of ethics that he could confront Kim with? Because as we just said, I think Kim knows. It's about
She's
how
smart.
much she wants
She
to say.
knows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't always like to talk about everything, which I kind of
Right.
love. She's kind
Yeah.
of like the opposite as far as the stereotypes male-female. She's very non-reactionary, not very emotional, and yeah, we don't need to talk it out. Let's just brush it under the carpet and keep going.
Right, right.
So I don't know. I'm not sure what he's gonna do with that information. You see Kim warn Jimmy to go cover his tracks.
Right.
So she is definitely making a bed that she's gonna have to lie in.
Yeah. I think that's a reason why a lot of people love the character. I mean, a lot of reasons. But one is that she's kind of the surrogate for the audience because she wants what's best for Jimmy.
Yeah.
She's rooting for him. We're all rooting for him, despite the fact that we know. Yeah.
I agree. Thank you for saying that. I always felt that way. In some ways, she's the audience's point of view to enjoy Jimmy too. Like he is very winning and charismatic and charming with her, and she sees that his intentions are right. And in season 1 in the beginning, and Bob has addressed this too, people at first were like, is she delusional? Why would she, if she's such an ethical lawyer person, why would she, be with him? Does she not see what he's like? And I said, she's not delusional at all. She sees an extremely intelligent lawyer, and which they've always been so great at showing, that even in that scene in the desert in season 1 with Tuco arguing with the twins, should we cut off their arms or their legs, the circumstances are absurd and horrible, but his lawyering is amazing.
It's amazing.
Like, he's actually great at his job, and he's actually intelligent, and he is the least duplicitous person in her life. He says what he thinks. He is fiercely loyal to her, and
she's able to be herself around him.
She is totally able to take her, and I think both of them do wear masks to a certain degree about where they need to fit in, and they are a little bit outsiders in that way. And then they can just eat banana cream pie in bed together and hash it out. But I think that there's a camaraderie there, and I think that they get each other's sense of humor. I think that she likes his just force of life to be reckoned with, and there are many times when he has asked her to take a look at things as much as she asks him to. Like I said, when he tells Kim, there's other factors here. You can't just work yourself out of this. There are personal vendettas going on. You're a pawn. All of this. He's right. He's right, at least to some degree, that Kim was not going to get ahead at HHM. And he believes in her, that she should branch out on her own. And every time Kim tells Jimmy what he should be doing, it's usually goals he said he wanted. In the opening of season 2, when he turns down the big job offer, it's like, you said you wanted the fancy suit and a seat at the big kids' table, and you couldn't understand why Howard wouldn't let you in, so why are you getting in your own way? So I think it's,
but didn't he want
it's an
some
equal
of those things, do you think, because he thought Kim, it would kind of bring them together, I think. In
a way. Or was it competitiveness with his brother, or competitiveness with Howard? A lot in season 1. So I think it was a lot of things. I don't think it was just Kim. And then again, it was one of those things where I thought it was important that, because you do see in like episode, forgive me, I think it's like 7, and Jimmy and Kim are in her apartment, and she lets him know she got a new job offer, but she's unhappy for some reason. She just can't get excited, and she's not really sure why, and she couldn't put her finger on it. And this is one of those classic cases of me going to the writers and wondering, does this have to be defined? Can you tell me, is there a subtext here that you know what it is? And they said, no, it's just one of those things as a human when I'm not sure what's wrong yet, and you get to play these moments very organically, which I think is one of the reasons that we've had such a lovely response from fans, that they're like, I find these people real. I find them accessible. They're in absurd circumstances, but they're accessible humans having a real relationship. And that was one of those times where they're like, it's just something, she just feels something is amiss and something's wrong. And then within the scene, and Jennifer Hutchinson wrote that scene, I just sort of barely touch on, you took this job for me. You did this for me, didn't you? And you can see that it bothers her. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was the right thing to make it so that Kim, it hadn't occurred to her, like you're saying. Because I think some people were like, can't she see that he's doing this? But I think there's a lot of other reasons that he was doing some of those things. And I don't think Kim ever wanted Jimmy to just do something for her. It bothers her a great deal when that occurs to her.
One of the other things you got to do this season, in Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, great history of montages.
Yes, I got my own montage.
Your own montage,
it was
which
very
is
fun.
One of the most amazing things.
Yes.
Although I bet, so this montage, Kim's been sent, I think somebody calls it the cornfield.
Yep.
The Twilight Zone episode, but she's been sent to document review. And we see
Is Cornfield from Twilight Zone?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And then I always felt like I was in Brazil in that set. It felt a little Terry Gilliam, like I should fight for my desk through the wall.
It's a great, it's a great set.
Yeah.
And she's got to work her way out of that basement. So she's trolling for clients,
Yes.
and we see her doing this to the Gypsy Kings
Right.
my way.
Because if you're going to do a montage, hire Kelly Dixon to edit it, and then life will be just fine.
Yeah. How long did it take to shoot all those scenes of you in the stairwell?
We got that in one day. There's about 10 phone calls. I'm trying to think. I feel like 2 of them were done at a different segment, but the whole montage of calls, that was all in one day. And they needed it to look like about 4+ days of Kim working, at least 4, because then they were going to cut it. And Jennifer Bryan did the costumes so that they could all be deconstructed, with a jacket, without a jacket. And she always does this with, she's so amazing. Kim's clothes are always reworn because that's the price point she should be at, where she is in life economically. So
Right.
you see the same blouse, you see the skirt with other things, and they're almost always mismatched as well because she can't afford the whole suit from Saks, so she's getting separates at Marshall's. Jennifer Bryan is that specific, and it's amazing. So we had all these things to make it look like it could be anywhere over 4 days worth of different events, and she's then looking for a place to work because she has no office anymore. And it's not wrong what she's doing, trying to drum up a client and work for herself and get, reel in a big fish. So she doesn't have to be totally secretive, but it's also weird to have a lot of noise in the background while you're calling people, and she's looking for some kind of privacy. So you see, we had to find spaces to do that, and Brett DeSantos, our AD, was helping with that too. We had the conference room when it's empty, the stairwell we used a lot, the bathroom at one point, parking garages, the front curb. So we were going to. So then we took the conversations, which also are longer than you actually heard, to give Kelly space to edit them, to figure out which dialogue would be brought up in volume and which would be buried and stuff. So they're all quite a bit longer than what you hear, and then they had to be interchangeable. So I would do them kind of on loop over and over, like do all 8 of them at that time, 8 in one costume in this area. Now do those a couple of times, and then do 8 in a different costume in a different area, over and over. So it's all the combinations. I can't remember how many combinations there were, but we did them fast.
A lot, yeah.
We did them fast.
And you wrote the information out on the Post-it notes.
I
to kind of get
did. What did
into
you do? Your
things.
homework? I did. It was the only way I could keep sane. I mean,
Yeah.
and to give it a performance that when you get handed a script and a character like Peter and Vince are writing, you make sure you do everything you can. And so I wanted to interpret it the best I could, and I thought cold calls are not all the same. Like
Right.
how you call
The
drunk guy from a
familiarity.
party that you think, that she says she did bourbon shots with. That's a very different call than like my friend's mom who thinks her dentist has a legal case. That's a very different call. And then you also hear her call some people that shoot her down immediately. And some of that was extra pocket dialogue, which is just text that's never meant to be heard but is acted and seen MOS.
So what did you think when you saw it cut together?
I was amazed. And I loved that the song she put with it, that Kelly put with it, and all of the sound designers, and also the way they edit it, it's sped up. Sometimes the vocals are not matching my mouth at all, and it adds to this confusion. It was a really great day because there was an entire pit crew. If the cameras had turned around, because everyone was like, was that crazy to be the only person on camera and like really take charge of that day? And I said it was thrilling to be trusted to do it with the work, but I was never alone. Off set or off camera was just a pit crew of people ripping my clothes off. Everything was like Velcro, and reformatted so that it was all like tear away, and people trying to find a place to put the mic, because you wear these tight pencil skirts. It's like, where's the mic pack? Because they're shooting 360.
Right.
Stuff that you don't even really think about. And hair and makeup every time you pull a blouse over your head. The smoking, making sure that matches, because she's smoking in a couple of the scenes doing it. The Post-its, Vince and Peter are very specific about the way they color code in their shows. So certain colors had to be in certain spaces at all times, and then all the names have to be cleared legally. that you see me scratching out, and they needed to be in my handwriting because you see me write them. So there was another props person, Claudia, who just specializes in forgery apparently, and she's rewriting these Post-its over and over and over. We had hundreds and hundreds of those Post-its written.
Wow.
But it's a pretty great feeling to go like, there's 100 of us just trying to tell a really good story, and there's nothing better than that.
And it's like for 3 minutes of this 50-minute episode.
Yeah.
Which,
but then, you know, an
and you
LA
can
Times reporter watched it, cared about it, and wants to talk about the details of
and
it.
you can
That's
find
thrilling.
this, and you can find this on YouTube.
You can?
I watched it
didn't know
before.
that.
Yeah, I think it's under the
That's
Gypsy
funny.
Kings, so it's the Spanish, whatever My Way is, and
Right.
Um,
What is it? What's my way in Spanish?
Don't
Mas
put me
something.
down.
We should know this.
we should.
We should.
But we don't.
Okay.
We'll look it up.
Okay.
That's the magic of Google, right?
Yes.
But it certainly does tell you so much about the character and her work ethic.
Right, I
her
love that. Like, how
determination.
often do you see a character that everyone's like, she's a really hard worker, but then like you actually see her work hard? Usually, it's just all lip service. Like, you saw in doc review. I can't tell you the number of reporters that have, I'm not reporters, lawyers that have come up to me. They were like, I so loved watching someone have to do the crap I do every day. I was like, really? And they were like, they go, yes, that's as much what trying to be a lawyer is about as any fancy like suit with a mini skirt in the courtroom. Like, that's
like
not
Spotlight,
what it's about.
what Spotlight did with all the research and they show it, the journalists digging deep, and it was like the minutia, the
Agreed.
very unglamorous,
And the hierarchy that goes on, and the politics involved with
Yeah.
trying to get ahead and then getting squished back down. I mean, it was almost like some weird like caste system going on of trying to get literally out of the dungeon.
the opposite of this, we see early in the season and middle of the season that Kim has a very natural ability as a scammer.
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from?
I don't know. Tom Schnauz wrote and directed the first one of season 2.
It's like, what's in
You
her
know, and I'm
past?
reading the script. I read their scripts with the. It's the thrill ride to me as like watching it for a viewer, because I'm turning the page and I'm like, oh, I'm scamming. Oh, okay, and I'm sort of good at it.
Yeah. Where's this come from?
And then the second time she does it, she initiates it.
Yeah, she calls Jimmy from
Yeah.
the bar because this sleaze has
Yeah, that was fun.
got a wife and he's,
Right,
yeah.
like she makes a weird. Which another thing is like these wavering lines of what's good and what's bad.
Right.
And her making that decision of like, yeah, that guy deserves to be scammed. Like,
Yeah.
there's clearly choices being made about what's okay and what's not okay, and what she can stomach and what she can't stomach, what's ethical, unethical. And she gets in 2 different arguments with Jimmy about it, saying like, it's the same thing. You seemed happy to scam, and she's like, that's not the same as fabricating evidence and stuff like that. But
As you're right, she initiates this.
she
one.
initiates it, and the first time she's reluctant, but then is rather good at it. And I don't know the answer yet to where that comes from. We had a lot of interesting conversations, yeah, there's something, you know, likewise, she does not respond very specifically when asked where she's from in the job interview with Schweikart.
See
There's a
the
lot of
Kansas
stuff.
City Royals jersey.
She wears a Kansas City Royals shirt. She says she's from the Kansas-Nebraska border.
Yeah.
She
Clues
was
are being
worried that
dropped.
she'd like grow up to be a cashier at Hinky Dinky. Like, yeah, there's
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
something going. And then Ice Station Zebra, there was a great scene where I'm watching that, and I say, yeah, this used to be my dad's favorite. Him and Hughes. There's 2 great recommendations or something, and like you see, and it's written, you know, in the scripts that Jimmy knows better. You know, you see, and Bob played it so beautifully that there's some history there. There's something there because he
Right.
doesn't pick it up. You know, he doesn't go like, "What's that mean? What about it?" Like,
Right.
it's left alone. And in their scripts, which is just such a gift as an actor, and I think as a viewer too, they presume the intelligence of the audience, and so they will use just as much a person's choice to not speak as a person's choice to speak, and it says volumes. It says
Right.
volumes what we choose not to say to each other, and what doesn't need to be said.
You mentioned the old movie. We had a reader question. We had a lot of reader questions. I don't know how many we're going to get to, but Nicholas.
Let's do all of them. Ready?
Nicholas wanted to know. No, wait. This is Justin who wanted to know. Do you think Kim and Mike would bond over classic film?
Probably. Probably.
We were just talking before this started that
That's funny.
we need some Kim and Mike moments somehow. I don't know how they're going to get together on an episode,
Right?
but
Jonathan and I have a blast off screen. I love him dearly, and as I watch all my other scene partners, I watch his work as often as I possibly can. He's just a tremendously talented guy. But he's also a tremendously amazing human being, just to be around, and I adore him. And we've bothered the writers quite a bit, saying that we think Kim and Mike should have a scene. Although then we laugh and say, like, would they just stare at each other? They're very these are very reticent,
Yeah.
kind of poker-faced people.
just across the room staring at each other.
Maybe, but
Somebody
as
gets
you
up and
suggested
leaves.
before, like maybe they're drunk at a bar and just wind up having a ton in common. I don't know.
And maybe Jimmy does them both wrong, or
Yeah.
and they
Right. I feel like you're right, though. I
bond.
feel like they would run into each other at the only old movie VHS rental store left, like on the planet. The two of them would be there for sure.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of variations of the question, who's a better lawyer, which I know you've gotten before.
Right, I have.
Uh,
I
Pat-
always say it depends on the
Patrice.
case.
Yeah, it does depend on
And
the
I'm talking
case,
like
right?
whether I'd call Saul, Jimmy, or Kim, it totally depends on the case.
Howard or Chuck.
Or Howard,
They
absolutely.
all have their specialties.
Yeah. For sure.
So
Agreed.
if your level of
You could have a very colorful team altogether if you got them
It would
all.
the dream team.
Just infighting constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for sure, and bring lots of Beanie Babies for the court filer. She's so
right.
great. I'm
Yeah.
blanking on her name right now. She's so good.
I guess it would depend on your level of desperation as a client.
Yeah, and the ethics of the case probably. But what's weird is they're all great lawyers. I mean, I don't know how weird it is, but people are like, Chuck, definitely, he's the smartest one. I'm like, he's the smartest one, but he also, I don't know. Have you ever hired someone that refuses to ever admit that they made a single mistake? It's
Right.
unsettling.
And sometimes
it's
that's
an
not
unsettling
going
thing
to play
be
for a
around.
jury.
No.
They're gonna go, who is this guy? Who does he think
Why
he
is
is?
why is he
Yeah.
so pompous? And
Right.
Jimmy knows how to appeal to humanity, and Kim
Yeah.
just won't give up. So those are your choices.
Good argument.
And
yeah.
Howard will just be the best looking person in court, so you could just push him out to the forefront.
He looked great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nicholas wanted to know, I mean, did you have any preconceived ideas going into this show and preparing for the role? Obviously, you had Breaking Bad. You knew there was a benchmark of quality.
Right.
But I guess as we've kind of talked about here, any preconceived ideas kind of go out the window, don't they?
They do, and even now, then is the same as now, which is there is. Peter and Vince have spoken about this. They're one of the only people that don't have a Bible for the whole show, and some of it is there's an architecture for this type of stories they want to tell, but they've told us that they organically let a lot of it develop, and so we are not told either. I didn't know what kind of character Kim was going to be, how big or small. I knew from Breaking Bad that that they do not write tertiary one-dimensional characters. So I felt great that, like, even a waitress with one line on their show you seem to wonder, like, I wonder where she goes. Wonder who
Right.
she goes home to. Like, they're always just very fully realized, textured people. So I knew I'd have fun with that. But at first, I didn't even know she would be a lawyer. My auditioning sides were not a lawyer. They weren't Kim at all. I had scenes that were an entirely different character for the first audition, and then a different character for the callback, but with character traits that they knew they would graft onto who Kim would be. And that's for the protection of the script, to not have the script flying out and about, because they're so protective of their fans. They don't want it spoiled. They really want people to let the story be unveiled to them. So I didn't have preconceived notions in that way. And then once I knew she was a lawyer, I knew I couldn't go through law school really quickly. And I knew they were going to do a procedural courtroom drama. So even though I would be as specific and prepared as I could be with legalese scenes, I thought more than likely this is more going to be a story about a human being who is a lawyer. And so I was asking my manager, who went to law school, I was like, can you think of like a book that more spoke to what it does to a human and their patterns of thinking when they go through law school? And she immediately said Scott Turo's 1972 memoir, 1L, about being a first-year Harvard Law student, and it was phenomenal. And I still keep it it's dog-eared and highlighted all over the place. He just has a tremendous capacity for relaying the experience of like being forced to think about things as black and white and legal and illegal, and what that does to your very human, the human part of your brain that wants to draw right and wrong as a little more of a gray scale, and how you make those things marry each other, and how some people never can, and it really disrupts their way of thinking. So it was a very helpful book.
Well, I think we have no idea what's going to happen in season 3.
No.
You don't know.
I mean, it makes it easy not to give anything away. I have no idea.
Down the road, this show could bleed into the Breaking Bad timeline. Right. Several years from now, we could see you show up in the Cinnabon.
She works at Claire's Accessories, right next door, with hoop earrings.
And they go out to the food court for a coffee.
Totally. Yeah. Why not?
That'd be great.
I don't know. And she has a comb over too, just like his, like matching comb overs.
There's the happy ending.
Could happen
For the character, right?
Yeah. I don't know if she was in the dumpster room when he was locked in there. Could be.
We don't know.
Yeah, no, they've left it open to themselves. There's no foregone conclusions for those guys, which is great. I don't know. I don't even know what timeline season 3 is going to be. If it could be all post Breaking Bad, it could be. We've done flashbacks even further back than Better Call Saul. The mailroom. Yeah. Jimmy and Chuck as kids with his dad. I mean, like.
So you might not even be in season 3.
I don't know.
We're not sure.
I don't know. Don't say that. Jeez.
But we enjoyed season 2 a lot. You
Thank
were
you.
so good in it.
Thanks.
I think they might bring you back.
I hope so.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
For more of these Emmy conversations, please go to latimes.com. Thanks for watching.